what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? You doing good?
Doing good. Same old, same old.
So we can actually, we can follow up on what we left on yesterday, which was the sex with the mom thing, right?
Sure.
And basically you said like, yeah, 10 out of 10, I would, you would win that debate, and I don't really agree with it. And I wanna start by first, seeing something we agree both on, in order to build on that, because what I was trying to explain yesterday, but with the raw show, it's very hard, is basically, but let's first see if you agree with what I'm saying here with this statement. Basically, when it comes down to the truth is defined by the relationship with reality, and that's it. That's the truth. Like, so if you have a certain idea or a thought, and reality proves you wrong, then you have to review and basically, change your hypothesis or whatever. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
I don't know if I would agree with that.
So basically, you can hold something, you can hold an idea or a thought that is not in line with reality and still assume it's the truth.
I guess it depends on what types of truths we're talking about. Like, so for instance, I would say, like, what about like fictional truths? Like, aren't these things that we could technically change and invent, like, at will? Like, so if we believe in some fictional concept, we could change or bend the truth to believe in a certain thing or whatever if we wanted to.
So what do you mean with that? So basically, if you're talking about a simulation or something, or a thought or an idea or whatever.
So let's say we wanted to imagine whether or not Gotenks would be able to defeat Vegito in combat, and these are two characters that will never meet, like in the Dragon Ball universe, and like, so I don't know if there's like an objective underlying fact of the matter about like who's stronger here. So there's no like truth claim, or there's no like underlying fact that we could, consult with to figure out who's correct. Like,
but the thing is, like, let's say, imagine now, like, in a setting where you would be able to simulate it within reality, and in reality it shows a certain outcome, then you can say like, okay, if I was, I was saying that Dragon Ball would win, but obviously he didn't win, therefore the truth is that, Goku is stronger. Or would you say like, oh yeah, we just run the simulation again and then maybe Goku would win? Or would you, like, in which context would you basically validate the claim you make? In which setting would that battle take place? Let's say you would want to validate the theorem you're actually trying to propose, because obviously you need to be able to validate it, else you're just,
I mean,
can
so
claim
like to
whatever.
get, I guess, like to cut to like the underlying point. Like, I kind of see where the argument is going. So like, I'm not going to agree that morality has some underlying fact that we can consult with to figure out if it's a true or false statement, because I don't think morality reduces to any fact of the world. But but I mean, like, insofar as like physical descriptive claims would go, I mean, I would probably have to agree that there hopefully is some underlying fact of the matter. So for instance, if I say like this object is taller than this object, and we understand that height is a relation between two objects, or taller is a relation between two objects, hopefully one is physically taller than another one as measured by length. Like, I would agree that that is like an underlying fact that hopefully we can come to an agreement on. But I'm not going to say the same about moral fact. But go ahead.
I understand, but like my discussion is not so much about morality, it's about reality.
Okay, sure.
And
reality, sure.
And the relationship with reality. Because the thing is, what I tried to explain yesterday was that when you have a certain theorem, right, and you come to a certain conclusion, and you try to impose that idea on reality, even though it doesn't, it's not compatible at that time, that you're mixing the two. Because the way to go about things is looking at reality, and then basically use your theories and your ideas to navigate it in order to be able to be more compatible with it, rather than come up with your own conclusions and then start imposing it on reality in a way that is just incompatible. And
sure.
that is basically the core. So when you say like, in a scenario where you have this information, like, so basically you have consent, sexual consent, and you have the information over it, like you have this theorem, and then you try to say like, okay, because it makes sense in reality. Therefore, that has to. One second, put my phone off. Yeah. Therefore, it has to also be the reality of things. It's that relationship that I was not agreeing with, and that's why when you also start, trying to define what power relationship is or whatever, like at the end of the day, it's about looking at reality, the reality of things, and basing yourself on that. And when it comes down to theories or understanding or rhetoric or whatever, it's always submitted. It's always basically following reality rather than leading reality. And that's an extremely important relationship, because what it then allows you to do is basically adapt the way you look at things and understand things, and constantly revise and improve based on the reality. So when you say, for example, oh yeah, it's fine to have sex with the mother, the reason why I disagree with it is because, like, I don't disagree with the actual, there is no such thing as objective morality. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about making a certain, theorem and just imposing it on reality, even though when you look at reality and let's say people's culture or people's belief set or whatever, it's not even compatible with this level of rationale, or this level of advanced rhetoric, that you basically have a conflict in reality. And I'll give you an even better example. For example, you come to the conclusion like, oh yeah, drugs is causing so many people to die, and or alcohol, let's say alcohol, because of driving and this and that, and also, the statistics, the liver, this and that. Okay, let's make it illegal to have drugs, to have alcohol. What would the like, even though it makes sense in a certain framework, in reality you would have riots. People would start buying in the black market and stuff. And it's basically that reality that contains all variables, even the ones you might not even think of, that basically overrides any kind of rhetorical argumentation you can build on. And that's what should lead, rather than an understanding or a logical framework that you build that might look very rigid, but then when you put it in reality, it just doesn't work.
Sure. So let's back up. Let's way back up from this, okay? So the example that you gave for whether or not we're talking about drugs, do they cause people to die? So that's like a normative relationship.
Alcohol. Let's say alcohol.
Sure, or alcohol. That's like a normative relationship that we can look at. Do people die when they consume alcohol, right? This is a question that we can analyze the underlying facts, and we can figure out, does this happen? But when you ask a question like, is it okay to fuck your mom? When you say whether or not something is okay or not okay, you're implying some level of morality there. Is it morally acceptable to fuck one's mom or not? That's usually
But that was not the argument I was trying to make. What I was just trying to say is that using a rhetorical argumentation and impose on
wait. Well, I just got to be really clear. So I'm not using rhetoric at all. I'm not using rhetorical argumentation. Everything we're doing here is purely deductive, okay? Nothing here I'm doing is to try to be persuasive or convincing.
There is no such a thing as deduction, though.
What do you mean?
Deduction.
You have to believe in deduction. You absolutely do. What do you mean?
I believe in induction, because there is no such a thing as absolute truths.
There is absolute truth. By the virtues of logic, we believe that there are absolute truths.
What is your fundamental truth?
Sure. So if I were to say, for instance, like all men are mortal, and then I were to say Socrates is a man, we could deductively conclude that Socrates is immortal, right? Like logic would deliver that.
No, because there's a lot of hidden premises you just assumed with what you said. Time, your ability to put it into words, your existence. All these premises are hidden premises, and a lot of these are probabilistic.
Okay. So are you familiar with the word the ultimate skeptic?
No, this is just inductive reasoning.
No. This isn't inductive reasoning. So right now what you're doing is you're playing a role called the ultimate skeptic.
No.
Yes,
you don't have to try to use difficult words.
No. I'm not. So ultimate and skeptic, neither of these words are difficult words, okay? So what you're doing is it's a position called the ultimate skeptic, where basically anytime I posit anything, you go why? And if you don't believe, listen, if you don't believe in deduction, we can't have a rational conversation.
That's not true.
It is. We can't have we absolutely cannot have a rational conversation if you don't believe in deduction.
I disagree with that. It's like playing poker and say
you're not real. You don't exist. I didn't hear anything you just said, because I don't believe in deduction. You're not real. You don't exist. I don't care. You don't exist. Your words don't mean anything.
That's not true.
No, it doesn't matter. You don't exist.
But quantum mechanics is fundamental.
Nope. Deduction. I don't believe in deduction. You're not real. Do you see how ridiculous this is? We have to be able to.
No, that's not true. because it's not because things are probabilistic that some things are just one or zero. Things are more likely and things are less likely.
How do you know something is probabilistic?
Because you measure it in reality.
Tell me I want to hear how you get from measuring something to making a determination without using deduction. So go. Walk me through that process.
Well, you just measure that things pop in. But science...
How do you know the measurement is valid?
But that's the thing, you don't know for sure. That's why it's induction.
So what do you know?
You just assume that this is likely to be true, and that is what you built your case on.
Okay.
That's exactly what science... There is not one scientist...
Okay, wait, we're in...
Right, I would say things are absolute.
Okay, so real quick, nothing we're doing right now has anything to do with science. This is squarely within the realm of philosophy, okay? We are really far away from doing anything scientific, okay? This is all...
But the thing is though, like, I've already built the theorem that, like, the theorem that you have to base the truth on reality. If reality shows that we are probabilistic and you can't even be sure about your existence, then you can't suddenly
but before we even
deductive reasoning and saying these are axiomas and we build, therefore this has to be true. Because if there's hidden premises, you can literally, you can come to false conclusions.
Sure. So when you have like you don't understand that, like, even when you say you have a theorem, okay, that means that you're following some list of deductive statements in order to give you. No, these are inductive. If you say if A, do you think that you can ever make a statement if A then B?
Well, within an inductive framework, yes.
Okay, so you're
But I have to already accept. I already have to accept the idea like I exist.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that, okay? But I'm not going to sit here and say everything past your initial inductive assumption is inductive. Things can be deductive past that. So, for instance, you and I both...
that is not true. Because, like, when you really go to the core, you have to go to the basis, and there you can just say...
But that's not how you have conversations. You don't go to the core on every single question. That doesn't make sense to do that.
That's how I build my entire...
Then you can't have any real conversation about anything ever.
But you can.
No, you can't.
Right now. Yes, I do.
No, you can't. Because if you drive a car every day, because if so, you've probably reasoned that, like, oh, well, causality is probably a real thing, which is a deductive thing, right? Oh, like, I can turn a key, the engine will turn, and these things will function the same way every single day.
But that's the thing. That's where all the flawed conclusions come, is when you just assume things are deductive and are absolute, while when you just zoom out even bigger, you see that it's inductive on the core. So you have to build it based on the foundation of what you think is true. And if you base yourself on the reality being the truth and only the reality, then if you realize that reality on itself is probabilistic based on, based on just even being able to be sure you exist.
If you want to get that fundamental, then the reality is that neither of us even have access to the truth, so we can't have a meaningful conversation. Right?
That's not true, because that's only the case.
Wait, hold on, wait. I just want to Socratically follow this tree. I just want to ask you, okay? How do you know that you have access to the truth?
But the thing is, there is no such thing as...
Can you answer that? How do you know that you have access to reality, or that you have access to the truth?
You can't know for sure.
Okay, then how can we have any conversation ever?
Because very likely it is the case.
How do you know it's likely?
Because you measure it.
How do you know that your measurements are likely? You're begging the question. You're saying, well, I can measure it. Well,
because I can assume with a likelihood.
How can you assume?
That I rather don't exist.
All of these assumptions are begging the question. It's completely circular and totally vacuous.
No, I can just say with more likeliness, I think I.
You can't say that. You don't know that.
I'm not sure. How you mean?
If I were to ask a priest who's more likely to win in an anime fight, he could never say, like, oh, well, I would choose that guy because it seems more likely. If he knows nothing about it, he would say, well,
I'm talking about me existing. Like, would you say that it's more or less likely that you exist and are having this conversation right now with me? Is it more or less likely?
I would say that we couldn't make a statement one way or another. We don't have access to that.
That's not true. I would say it's more likely that we have this conversation.
How do you know?
Maybe you say it's less likely, and that is exactly why
Okay, so what is the process? Okay, by which you validate that claim?
Well, my own existence, my experience.
Which is what is that? It starts with a D. It ends with octave. How do you use your own existence to validate? So the entire foundation of everything you do becomes deductive.
Absolute, though. I'm just saying it's likely. That's all. I'm not saying it's sure.
Okay, but how can you know that it's likely? How can you have a probability in mind for something that you don't even have access to?
But I don't understand. Like, I do experience what I experience.
How do you know you do?
Because I experience it, it's likely.
I'm not. You're answering in circles. I'm asking you, how do you know that you experience it? How do you validate your own existence?
by, but the thing is though, like you just exist and you assume that you exist and that's it. I mean, there is nothing more to it. I mean, that's the foundation of everything.
Okay, sure. I don't necessarily disagree with you. But what you're doing is...
Like, I can just say...
Okay, so like, would you agree that like...
I can't say it for sure. I can't state it for sure, but it's likely.
But how do you know that it's likely? You keep weaseling back to that. Well, it's probably likely. That makes it sound like you're evaluating it in some way where you can know like what is likely or what is not likely. What I'm...
Okay. I go about all the information you have in your experience, and obviously there is much more speaking in favor of you existing than against
You're missing the point. You keep running past the question I'm giving you. How do you know the experience that you're gathering is reflective of reality or real? You keep running past it. You're about to answer right now. You're about to say, well, it's more likely. It's part... No. That's not what I'm asking.
That's another question. That's another question.
No. That's a more fundamental question.
No. That's not true. Because the first thing you need to do to even experience a reality is to experience to begin with. Because maybe all this reality is a dream. So like the objective reality or whatever you want to call it is something that comes out of your existence. So you first have to agree that you exist. But if you can't be sure that you exist, then obviously you cannot claim that what comes out of what you experience is sure either. But you can just say, since I feel like I'm having this conversation right now and we're arguing with each other, it's likely that it's happening, but I'm not sure.
You haven't. You're doing it again. I don't think we can get out of this like pit of like uncertainty. Like, you keep saying, like, since I'm having this conversation, you're assuming your experience is valid, but you have no way of knowing that.
No, that's not true. You're misunderstanding me. You're misunderstanding me. I'm just saying it's more likely.
How do you know it's more likely? I keep asking you the same question. You can't answer. I ask you, how do you know it's more likely? I was like, well, because I'm having these experiences. How do you know your experiences are real? Well, because it's more likely. How do you know it's more likely? Well, because I'm having these experiences. Do you see how you're running around in a circle?
No. Because it's the foundation of what you build on. It's like you build on what you think is true, and you go like, okay, I assume that my existence is true, but I'm not sure, and that's all. And you can say like, yeah, but how sure are you that you exist? Since I'm making the argument and we're having this conversation, I assume it's more likely than less likely, but maybe that's not the case. I'm not certain that it's more likely than less likely.
I think we actually agree. So I'm gonna phrase this the way that I would phrase it. Rather than saying that like there's a probability that I exist or blah blah blah, what I would say is that like to believe in anything else would lead us to absurdity. I can't have reasonable conversations or have a reasonable existence if I think that I don't exist. That's absurd, right? That's what I would say. But if we rest everything on that foundational assumption, okay? If we rest everything on that one premise that we exist, okay? And we start building from there, right? That initial statement that we exist, right? Would you agree? What?
Is inductive.
How are you inducting that from nothing?
Well, inductive reasoning is you don't state absolute truths. It's just an assumption. That's all.
But what is doing but what you're missing is for me to make an inductive statement or to engage in inductive reasoning, I have to have some experience that I'm using to make these inductive investigations. I can't start with nothing and get to induction. Induction necessarily follows from deduction. Like I can't induct from nothing. Nothing can induct. Nothing cannot induct.
The thing is, induction on itself is you have assumptions where you build another assumption that is more likely, but you can't know for sure. Sure, that's what inductive reasoning is. Deductive reasoning is you have absolute truths as premises and you derive an absolute truth. That's what deductive reasoning is. Since your fundamental premise, which is I assume that I exist, let's have a conversation, is an assumption, everything else is just induction. There is no such thing.
That's not how that works, though.
Well, just like I just explained you.
No, but you're missing. You don't understand how you can contextualize statements. So, for instance, let's say that I do have some. Okay, so like here's something that's a statement. Okay, Harry Potter is not real. Okay, that is a fact, or I hope you agree with that, right? Harry Potter is not real. Okay, however,
well, even that I would say it's an assumption.
Okay.
Like you can't be for sure that that's the case.
Sure. I mean, like this is what you're. This is what you're.
I would say it's damn likely. It's
sure.
Damn likely.
What you're playing is like this is like an ultimately skeptical position. Like I can't counter any of your arguments. Like I can.
Fundamental. It's fundamental to any kind of rhetoric to understand that there is no such a thing as deductive reasoning. that everything is it's just probabilistic and it's assumptions. And the moment you start building on absolutes, you're already, basically screwing up on the foundation. And you said it yourself. Yeah, you got to assume you exist, because else why do we have a conversation? So you actually agree with me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, of course. But just because
then the claim that you said there is deductive reasoning is flawed, because
just because you agree, just because you would say a fundamental level is fictional or subjective doesn't mean that every statement that you make afterwards is fictional or subjective.
So you can basically make these assumptions without existing? Without the assumption of existing?
No. What I'm saying is that past a subjective starting point, you can start to make objectively true statements with reference
No. That's not true.
This is how math works. This is literally what our entire reality is based on.
Do you know, let me tell you something. Even with math, right? There is, when you talk about logic or math or whatever, there has been in the history of math, there has been changes in the way we think in logic. Even when it comes down to logic on itself, there is, different schools. Like, for example, the axiomas, where when you have 2 points, and almost all geometry is built on this, you can only have one line that crosses 2 points, right? Since space and time is actually bended, that is not true anymore. That axioma is not true anymore, because
you are horrendously conflating physics with mathematics, okay? There are mathematical models for geometry that have nothing to do with the physical reality that we inhibit, and space-time does not change the way that we do math. These
but
two...
the thing is, you have to understand that, and that boils down back to what I said earlier. When you want to understand the truth, it's a relationship with reality. So if reality shows that our understanding of 2 points only having one line that can cross it is actually wrong, then obviously we have to review our math, which has happened many times in history. Math is not an absolute, correct science. You can.
I never said that math is an absolute correct science.
But I'm just saying, you can improve on it. You can improve on it.
Okay, let's just focus on this one statement, because if you disagree with this, I can't. You can go talk to a philosophy major or something, because I can't. I don't know how to convince someone else. I've never tried this before. Okay, you have to acknowledge that you can start from some subjective foundation and make objectively true statements with regards to that subjective foundation. Stop! Can I finish an example, please? So here would be an example of this. Okay, here would be an example of this. I can give you 2 examples. Okay, here's a really basic one. Okay. All bachelors are married. That is a deductively true statement by virtue of itself. A bachelor, axiomatically, is defined as a person, or all bachelors are unmarried, okay? A bachelor is defined axiomatically as somebody without a wife, okay? So we can conclude that if you are a bachelor, you are unmarried, right? Now, even if all of reality is subjective, we can still say that that is a deductive, objective statement. Or we can make the statement, Dumbledore defeats Voldemort in a magical battle, right? That statement is deductively true, even though the Harry Potter world is fictional. That statement is still a deductively true statement. And we can blow this out to science and mathematics and everything else as well, where even if we start with a subjective foundation, we can still make objectively true statements.
It's a deductive, objective statement inside a hypothetical.
Wait, what?
It's an objective, deductive statement within a hypothetical one.
Yeah, but we understand everything to sit within the context of some statement, or within some greater context. Every statement we make is there's
when it comes down to reasoning, you got to make sure that you have all the hidden premises as part of your
yeah. We do this with every statement that we make.
Say what?
We do this with every single statement we make. There's a
form.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I just said that everything is fundamentally inductive, and you said no, it's deductive within a small.
No, what I'm saying is that we contextualize. Here's a question: when you drive in a car, how fast do you think you move on average?
Well, I would assume, let's say 40 miles an hour, whatever.
You're totally wrong. You're not even close. You move closer to 1,000 miles an hour because the Earth is rotating.
Okay, yeah, well, it's relative, yes, yeah.
That's my whole point. You just said my whole point. It's relative. It's all relative. When we make some statement, some deductively true statement, we're usually saying it within a context of some other logical system that we're adhering to. That doesn't mean that when I say something is deductively true, that the foundation of it is like inherently justified or deductively true or something.
I didn't make the claim that it's absolutely true that I'm driving 40 miles an hour, while you were claiming that these things are absolutely true within a context that is, a part of a inside and hypothetical. And I said, if you zoom out, you start suddenly falling down because the reality shows you wrong, proves you wrong. And if you want to have a relationship with the truth, you have to have a relationship with reality.
Yeah, but okay, so like, let's focus on this. So let's focus.
That's exactly my point.
This is my point. Let's focus on this right here. How would I ever determine the speed of anything in the universe?
But it's always relative.
Exactly. But that's my point. But there's still a speed. Even though the speed of anything in the universe, because there's no universal frame of reference.
An assumption.
No. Stop saying it's an assumption. Even though the frame. Okay.
Because does time and space even exist? When you look at quantum,
oh god.
When you look at quantum mechanics on a fundamental level, time and space.
We don't have to get to nothing. We're talking about has anything to do with quantum mechanics, okay?
But like if you want to state a truth, an absolute truth, then it's important that it holds.
No one is talking about an absolute truth here. We don't state absolute truth. That's not how normal conversation or even scientific conversation functions. We don't talk about absolute truths.
But you said earlier that there was absolute truth.
When did I say that? I've never said that.
Okay, vote time. Guys, go back and you stated earlier.
I said you can make deductive statements. I would never say there's absolute truth. I don't believe in absolute truth. Like, I am also ultimately skeptical. The difference is that I don't bring my ultimate skepticism into every single conversation because it only exists at a fundamental foundational level. And to be ultimately skeptical about everything leads you down absurdity. So it's pointless to have any conversation with somebody that's going to be the ultimate skeptic about any given conversation.
No, but I'm not an ultimate skeptic. You're trying to twist my words. What I'm just trying to say is it's not because things are probabilistic on a fundamental level that you cannot say this is way more likely than this.
Because you can't. Because you can't have knowledge of that. You don't know how likely it is that you exist or don't. You just can't have. You have no information about that. You have to make a totally basis
assumption. You start to build, to build everything on top of it.
But you can't inductively reason that foundation. You have nothing to induce from. That's not how inductive reason works. Inductively reasoning something means you gather some amount of information and you make a probabilistic claim towards one thing or another. You can't start from non-existence and induct your way to existence. It doesn't work that way.
Let me tell you, inductive reasoning starts with assumptions, and then you build an assumption on it.
But you're starting from non-existence.
I didn't say that through inductive reasoning I got to the point where I assume that I exist. I just say I assume that I exist is the first premise within my inductive reasoning. That's all. I'm not saying how I got to there. That's just the assumption I made.
Okay, that language that you use is fine. I agree with that. I also assume that I exist. But then But I don't inductively reason that I exist. I don't have the capability of doing that, as do you neither. We cannot use a probabilistic thing to.
But then that's miscommunication. What I'm just trying to say is, on a fundamental level, assuming that you exist is a hidden premise in every single claim.
Of course, yeah, I agree 100%, because you can't justify your own existence.
Every deductive reasoning that you do fundamentally inductive.
No,
because one of your premises is inductive. Yeah, one of the premises is an assumption. Okay. If you have a different, like A plus B is C, and C plus D is F, and G is you don't know, right? And now, like, when you deduce something out of it to make sure that everything is true, right? You got to make sure, like, I can't be sure of everything I say because G is an assumption.
I understand what you're saying, but you have a fundamental misunderstanding of like how you make logical statements. And I don't mean like you're illogical or irrational, but you just don't understand like how you can make inductive or deductive statements if you're saying this. Like every single like I promise you don't. If you pull on any philosophy major or anybody, they will explain in better words than I can why what you're saying is irrational.
Philosophical majors or whatever, I just think for myself. There's a lot of
it's apparent. I understand.
Philosophers are still trying to figure out, and I managed to find a solution for. Okay. It's like I don't care what philosophers say. They don't have the holy grail of reality or the truth.
Sure.
I mean, if that was the case, we would have already figured out everything.
Sure. It's
all my own self-thinking, critical thinking, and the fact that there is an assumption in your premises within your deductive reasoning makes it inductive.
Okay.
Go to anyone and ask.
Yeah, sure. You can. Hold on.
Go and ask any philosopher. They would say like, oh, there is an assumption in your deductive reasoning. Then it's not in the deductive anymore. Then it's inductive. Well, go ahead. I know this is true what I just said.
Okay, hold on. I'll see if I can bother my Hegelian friend. I'll wake him up. I don't know if he's awake right now, but that should be like the particular statement that you should ask somebody. You should say like, hey, like if I believe that ultimately like the foundation of reality is like subjective or whatever or inductive, does that make every single type of logical statement afterwards inductive? Is it impossible to have deductive statements?
So you're gonna ask a random guy, and then he's gonna tell you the.
No, I'm not asking a random guy. This is like my master's in philosophy friend. But like, I'm just saying that. Well, I can think for myself, and your statement is absurd. Like with your statement.
No, that's not true. If there's an inductive argument in your deductive reasoning, then it's not deductive anymore. If there's an inductive premise, then it's not deductive anymore, and that's it.
Yeah, and I disagree with that.
Proper simple logic.
It's not simple logic. Don't say it's simple logic, because what you're doing is not followed by anybody that studies logic. Okay, nobody would agree with you there. Like this is Athene logic, is what you would call this. Okay.
That is not true.
This is Athene logic. Yes.
If you add an inductive premise in your deductive reasoning, it's not deductive anymore. It's inductive. Dude, do I have to read the definitions of inductive and deductive reasoning for you to make this connection?
Sure.
It's just because it's hidden. It's hidden.
But but every single premise isn't hidden in every single argument. That's not a valid way of interpreting things. This is some weird way. That's like saying if I say like, well, 1 + 1 is 2, and you go, but to say 1 + 1 is true, you must first assume the premise that you exist and that we're having this conversation. No, that's not how any of this works. I'm sorry.
That's why I'm ahead. That's why my logic is way ahead, because what I'm just saying here is true.
Okay.
The hidden premise is you have to assume you exist.
Okay.
And that is one part of it. And a lot of the times when people come to wrong conclusions, it's because they miss on premises when they make their rhetoric. That's the problem. And that is also what I'm trying to say. Even at the start with the sex and the moms thing, I said, if you create, your own little bubble and you base yourself on that, right, to say this is the truth, and then you apply it on reality, even though within reality it wouldn't work, that you're doing it the wrong way. You have to lead by following reality and then come to your conclusions, rather than having your own, deductive little bubble that can be flawed, and then, impose it on reality. That is the problem. That is what is the real superior rhetoric.
Okay, okay, you know what? I'll bite. Despite how ridiculous this is, I'll bite. How is that a problem? Let's say, for instance, I want to evaluate who is stronger in some given video game, okay? What problems do I run into if I don't make sure to check that I'm like assuming my whole existence while I'm making this argument or having this debate with somebody? What problems do I run into?
Well, you just know that it's probabilities, the answer, that's all.
How does that change anything?
Well, it's very interesting because a lot of people, like, let me tell you why this is very interesting. And this boils down to the psychology of how people work. When people go through life and they think very emotionally, they think binary. Things are either true or not true. But when
I started a new call, because I dragged somebody in. Is this what Rem feels like when he debates with me? I swear to God, I don't pull up like I don't pull up the skeptical shit though for every argument. Holy fuck. Do you think Athene's just been talking to himself for like an hour right now? Oh shit. Oh wait, hello. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. Now, wait. Where is he? Where's
okay, Marty, do this one. Okay, kill me. Okay, go. Okay, Athene, present your argument to Marty. He's read 7 Wikipedia articles on this topic. Go.
Okay, Marty. So basically, can you have a deductive argument when one of the premises is inductive?
When one of the premises is inductive?
Yes.
I don't understand.
What he's saying is like every single deductive argument you make starts from the inductive premise that you exist. So therefore, no person can make any deductive argument ever, because the fact that we exist is like figured out inductively.
It's a hidden premise in every single deductive argument you're trying to make. And since there is an inductive argument in your deductive argument, you can't deduce for sure anymore.
I don't understand. So where do you think that you would empirically get, like, monus ponus or monus tollens?
What?
It just seems to be I'm just talking about logical inferences that seem to be rational, right?
So like
These are
my
just
question is,
deductive.
you know what inductive is, right? You have a
Yeah, I'm
variable
asking,
like,
but what I'm asking is like, what about the statement that men are mortal, Socrates is immortal,
but like,
therefore Socrates is a
but
man.
the thing is though, like when you make that premise, there is a hidden premise saying you need to exist to make that statement to begin with.
Yeah, but that's not excluding deductive statements. That's just saying that you need to experience something in order to make deductive statements.
Well, yeah, and in order to experience it, has to be part of the premise. You cannot just remove that premise. You cannot just remove information because else
Something can be dependent upon experience and still be independent from it.
that's okay. Tell me what. Give me one example.
Well, I mean, you could have geometrical, mathematical, logical proofs that are
No,
deductive.
like if you wouldn't exist, you wouldn't be able to make that claim.
The point is that these claims would be true without any particular existence, and
How
therefore
can you make that claim if you don't even exist?
you don't have to exist in order to have certain types of truth like that.
Based on what are you saying that?
These are just necessary claims.
No,
Just
man, based on what you're making claims, like you need to exist in order to make these claims. You can't say I can make these claims without existing and they are true without me existing. That is completely bullshit.
Real quick, Marty,
Marty,
before I make you suffer more of this.
What is this?
Marty. This is I'm correct. Like, this is like the ultimate skeptic, right? Like,
It's
No,
not even
I'm not
skepticism,
skeptic.
it's just
wait. I'm just asking Marty. This is the ultimate skeptic position, right?
I wouldn't even say this is a form of skepticism. I just think that that's just a form of stupidity.
Well, no, but I mean, like,
Is
to
that-
basically
is
continually
that-
question
is that
every
how
single
you
thing you
address-
possibly say into like meaninglessness is like.
But sorry, that's an ad hominem.
Yeah, but I
what
think
you're
there's a
doing there.
distinction
You're not even
between-
addressing my point, and you're
I think-
coming and trying to call me stupid, and then you call yourself being a
I
smart
didn't call you
philosopher.
stupid.
Come
I
on,
didn't-
man.
I didn't call you stupid. I'm just saying the argument that you're presenting.
You didn't just call me stupid. You basically deflected the argument by calling me stupid. Like, come on,
No,
seriously.
I didn't. No, I
You didn't
deflect
do
your
that?
argument.
Well, that's what I heard. Maybe
I answered your argument. It's not an
Well,
inhominate,
answer my
by the way,
argument.
to insult the person if they've answered the argument.
If there is an inductive premise within your deductive reasoning, can you still call it deductive? That's a very simple question, right?
I'm saying all things arise from experience. That does not follow that they necessarily cannot be independent of experience.
They cannot. Yeah. You're right. You're right. Necessary indeed, but you can't know for sure.
Well, necessary statements are ones that are going to be of a certain type of certainty. Yeah.
So they're
Now,
not certain.
infallibility.
They're not certain, right?
Something being. I mean, you having the capacity of, being wrong. Sure, that doesn't render their necessity void just because you can be wrong about something.
But what I'm just saying is, like, if you don't know for sure, then you can't use it as a premise that is true within your deductive reasoning. You just said.
Well, I don't know what your criterion of justified true belief is. What do you think?
Well, I'm just saying, since you assume that since I start with the assumption that I exist, right? Then every single claim I make while I exist, which requires me to exist to make the claim, is fundamentally having the hidden premise that I assume that I exist in it. So if I build an absolute, deductive reasoning, it's always within a bigger inductive framework, making
Look,
it.
I don't even know if you know what the predication of existence means, so I don't know where you're getting at.
Well, do you agree that you can't say for sure that you exist?
No, I think that existence is just sort of a trivial fact that is seen in all forms of experience.
Trivial fact. So you say that facts are, absolute as well?
Well, I don't know what you mean by absolute. Do you mean that I can't be wrong? Then no. Do I have justified beliefs in them? Then yes.
No, what I mean with absolute is that it holds to be true and is truth for everything and everyone.
Okay, that's just a necessary statement.
But that's what
I think that there are
truth is.
necessary statements. Yeah, I think logical, geometric, and mathematical proofs, and then certain types of metaphysical beliefs, like being is, existence is. I can use certain types of concepts like reality, negation, affirmation.
But all these things all these things you can't be sure about.
I can't be sure about them. Sure, I can.
You can be sure about them?
Yeah, but I think you can provide an argument of why certain types of concepts originate from more primitive concepts, and then so on and so forth.
And when you build on all your train of thought, they don't build on the foundation of you assuming that you exist?
I think existence is a type of predication that actually comes from some other more primitive concept.
Okay, what is the more primitive concept than existence?
I think being, indeterminate being, and then moving from indeterminate being to determinate being.
So like, let's say, what do you mean with indeterminate being? What do you mean with that?
Okay, sure, I can explain, but I told Destiny I could only be here for about 2 to 5 minutes because I'm playing a game of D&D.
Go, Marty.
But indeterminate being is basically... Hold on. Indeterminate being is basically what's known as immediate and... what is it? Immediacy... And fuck, I'm trying to remember the other one real quick off the top of my head.
So that is not an assumption. That holds to be true.
Hold on. Yeah. So indeterminate and immediate. That's the criterion of indeterminate being. So something that's determinate is a positive claim of some sort of quality, right? So when
I want to start
we're
at the
making
core.
determinations about like any object,
But you build determination on indetermination, right?
Yeah, but there is no determination on something that's indeterminate. It's wholly without any determination, and it's immediate because it's not mediated in virtue of something else. So we begin presuppositionlessly in this type of philosophy, and then we see from this presuppositionalist philosophy other types of qualities arise from it. So right now we would be in...
But like you were saying that indeterminate was absolute and was true, and then you suddenly jump to the determinate one. I want to understand what is true about the indeterminate. Say what?
I haven't jumped to the determination. I've just merely stipulated that it's going to eventually occur. I haven't given an argument for it.
So my question is about this indeterminate state, right? Like that you said is to be true, right? Right? That holds to be true, right?
Yeah.
When?
In the beginning of our philosophy.
No, but like, you're talking about in the beginning of your philosophy, but if we're talking here about being able to even exist to begin with, so
no, we're not. We're talking about being that is...
But you need to exist to have this conversation, right? If you don't exist, you cannot...
We're not talking about us. We're talking about apprehending being in its indeterminate and immediate form.
But man, you can't make you're basically using the hidden premise that you exist to have this entire conversation.
No, you don't. You can work up to your...
Wait, Marty. So what he's saying is like every single word you're saying is predicated on the fact that you exist, and since that existence is subjective, every single statement that you make afterwards...
Yeah, I'm saying that we can't even... If we're going with a completely presuppositionalist philosophy, we're not assuming our existence. We're not assuming our cognition.
Yeah, but since Athene himself doesn't subscribe to that, he would say that you're necessarily like, you have to have an experience, for instance, before you can have a conversation about...
He's making... Okay, but if he wants to do that, right? His philosophy is less presuppositionalist than mine, because I don't assume any of that. But if he wants to assume it, right,
you wouldn't exist.
If he wants to assume that, then we can forward to what's basically called the Transcendental Argument, which he's arguing. You know, there are necessary conditions to stipulate any judgment of the world.
You can't say
that you need to presuppose existence. Then I could just say, okay, well, we need to presuppose other necessary concepts in order to make sense of any judgments, right? So I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Like what I'm just trying to say is that what I'm trying to say is that you can be absolutely true. Your conclusions can be absolutely true.
Look, I don't know if you know what the distinction between absolutely true and true is. I don't think that you're making any sense when you make those contrasts. Do you know what truth is? Do you know what knowledge is? Do you know what a belief is?
Well, you have to define these words. You have to define these words.
Yeah, but do you define them?
Yeah, damn straight. What I define as truth is what is, what is based on what I believe is true, which is defined by reality. And what I define by reality is what you can laugh. I mean, like, what are you like?
Come on,
I
Marty, you
didn't go
dumbass. Truth is obviously what is real. Come on, Marty. Why are you being so
like
dense?
no, but what I'm just saying here, like, it's like if he follows his philosophy class and
Yeah, but
tries
he
to
just also said truth is whatever I just say.
no,
It
that's not true. I say it's based on
Yeah.
reality, and then I'm going to define reality. Reality is what holds to be true, independent of what I experience, not experience, what I feel or believe, such as gravity. And it's, you know, what I observe. Of course, I can't be sure that these things are the truth.
How do you distinguish between a belief and a justified true belief?
Well, like, it's all about probabilities. You can't be sure. You can't be
Well, no,
certain.
that's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking about probabilities. I'm asking how do you know whatsoever if you're going to say that everything is dependent upon your experience for its existence? Isn't that just solipsism?
No, that's not true, because I say I'm building on the assumption that I exist, and within that assumption, I can still see, oh, this is more likely to be true than this, and
Based
what
on
I
what?
based
Where's the
on what I
probability
observe
sitting?
in reality, based on
But
the
you just said reality is all in your head, so I don't understand. So what's the distinction between something
no,
being in reality and being in your head?
no. Then that means you didn't listen. I didn't say reality is all in my head. I said that without the assumption that I exist, well, like, without my existence, I wouldn't be able to know whether there is a reality that would exist outside there at all. That's all I'm saying. But maybe there is. Maybe there is a reality even when I don't exist. I'm not saying just. I'm just saying there is no such a thing as something that I can say for sure to be true. That's all. That's literally the only thing I say. And because of that, everything is fundamentally inductive. That's all.
Okay, well that doesn't follow at all. But my
That,
suggestion with this destiny is with people like this, I would just ignore them.
Wait,
And
no, wait. Can I ask you a simple question? I just want you to a simple question, Marty.
Mr. Martin, wait, because what he's trying to do there is just like, he's trying to make me look like a joke or whatever because he does some philosophy degree or whatever the fuck. I don't give a shit. Look, I turned $5 in more than $300,000 with poker in less than a
Wait, but
year.
now hold on.
I've
Now
had
you're engaging a whole bunch of fallacious stuff. None of this logically follows.
No, that this matters because he's just trying to make me look like an idiot. I raised more than 25 million.
You can raise a lot of money and still be philosophically illiterate, though. I don't know how much Bill Gates knows about philosophy.
This has nothing to do with, I'm not an idiot that doesn't know what I'm talking about. I'm a very intelligent person. And when he just comes and tries to reject what I say by just calling
You could
me
be
an idiot,
very intelligent and still be wrong about philosophy. This just doesn't logically
it's
follow.
not about being right or wrong about philosophy. This is about him trying to deflect my argument with an ad hominem saying that I'm an idiot.
He's not deflecting it with an ad hominem. He's saying that the statements that you're making are logically incongruent. They're not even wrong. They don't even follow from one another.
look, Athena. There's a difference between deflecting someone's argument and saying they're wrong in virtue of them being dumb, and then just calling a person dumb, right? I just think you are dumb, not based off of what your fucking inferences are, because I've given you an argument against those inferences.
That's not
But
true.
I can
But
give
that's
an insult that has nothing to do with the fucking argument.
That's not true. Like, you haven't addressed my argument at all.
Sure, I just don't think you realize what you're talking about, and that's
But
fine.
that's bullshit. No, then I
So
have
what
the
have you
right
read
to
about
say
this type
you
of
don't know
thing?
what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking
Give me
about.
you didn't give me
Like
a
Destiny,
definition.
you shouldn't talk to Marty anymore because he's dumb. You should just ignore him.
Yeah, but
What-
Marty
what-
has like a logic. Marty has ideas that I can grapple with in like a reasonable, logical manner. You're telling me that like everything is subjective because I don't know if I exist, and therefore everything is subjective. Like there's nothing I can do with that. There's nothing left to think
A lot
about.
of philosophers would even
Anyways,
agree with
Destiny,
me.
so I'll go over the arguments against external world skepticism with you at another time.
Sure. Oh wait. My main question though is just that like even if we agree, because honestly, because you know this about me, Marty, I actually do agree with Athene's fundamentals here. I just don't like blow them out to everything. But even if we do agree that ultimately like
so,
we can't
like,
necessarily like validate our existence, I could still make like deductive statements past that point, right? Like I could deductively say like your example, any kind of mathematical statement or any kind of statement that's deductively true. Like I can still employ deductive reasoning past like some subjective starting point, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't generate any form of logical inference from empirical experience, right? Whether modus ponens or modus tollens is going to be true is going to be independent of any experience, right? If we can logically say something like all men are mortal, Socrates is a mortal, and Socrates is therefore a man, right? This form of inference that we've generated, this logical conclusion, isn't going to be guaranteed from any empirical evidence. We just know that type of inference to be valid, right? Because that's its logical form, and we realize its logical necessity.
Okay.
So
Yeah, all right. That's all I
if
care
he
about.
wants
All
to
right.
argue, if he wants to argue against all these types of things,
So like,
I just don't
can
know
I?
how he's going to argue them without presupposing the logical, valid
But
structure of, at least,
but
I guess, classic logic. So,
Marty, like it's not because things are fundamentally
look, I got to go
induct.
back to the D&D game. We'll talk about this some other time if you think I'm, if
Sure,
you
but
think
like, please,
about
like,
this
before
game.
you come and talk back, don't just put me off as an idiot, because that's very disrespectful and it just shows very little integrity in your way of going about things and trying
Yeah,
to make
I mean, the
very
way that I look at it is that I begin with the principle of charity, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with assuming that
like.
your interlocutor sometimes is an idiot. And
But
if
the thing
if you're
is,
dealing
like,
with
like
if you're
with
arguing with people who
this
are
is
idiots, then
when
you're
you're
not going
saying
to
these
you're not
things
going to
that
make
I'm an
any
idiot.
progress.
That's just a way to deflect it because you don't know what to say, man. And that's your go away card to deflect when you're getting
Well, my go away card right now is
when you
that I got
get
to play D&D,
intellectually
and
crushed. That's what you say. Oh, he's an idiot. Come on, man. If you really want to argue and debate, bring your arguments on the table. Don't do some cheap trick like that. That shows very little integrity. Go play your game. I don't mind. I'll keep talking to Destiny because you're just a wannabe. Like, go play your game. It's fine. I'll have a conversation with Destiny here. I'm an idiot. It's fine. Go.
okay, thanks for agreeing with me,
See
buddy.
ya, man. Is that the guy you call? Is that your little friend that you call for help when you don't know how to respond to me? Look how can't even have a proper debate. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. Calling me an idiot and saying like, don't have a talk with this guy. Unfucking believable, man.
You got
But
him,
hey,
dude. What's up?
I find it a bit. It's just crazy how certain people, when they just don't know what to respond, they just go like, he's an idiot. Don't talk to him. Like, come on, man. That's not how you have a debate. I don't say that to you, Destiny, even if you say many times.
Well, of course not. But you have like motivation to be here. Like you have something to gain from this conversation. So I wouldn't expect you to.
Well, even if I wouldn't have anything to win from this conversation, I would still not, just call you an idiot and have that as the sole argument while I'm not talking to you because you're an idiot. I wouldn't do that. I would just try to address and show the inconsistencies in what you say and use that. Like, hey, look, that's where you fuck up. Not you're an idiot. Don't talk to him. It's just like, what the fuck is that? That is very narrow-minded talking, and he knew it. He knows it. He knows it very well. He's just used to always be the smart guy in the room, and he just got told, and he didn't know what to say, so he just called me an idiot and started talking with some difficult words, trying to talk himself out of it. He didn't know the answer to your question, bro. And that's a philosopher. What is it? A PhD in philosophy or whatever the fuck he is?
Does it worry you that like does it worry you that you feel like, or do you ever think it's strange that like you think you're so smart and you figured out so much of philosophy of life, but you have no idea what like other contemporary philosophers kind of like say on the matter? Do you ever get worried that?
But I don't mind sitting on the table and listening to their views and everything.
Yeah, but like if you haven't, does it not worry you that you could be wrong about everything and you'd have no idea? Like, how do you verify?
I know.
How do you know though?
That I could be wrong about everything.
Well, but why not spend some time seeing what like other people have to say on a given subject rather than just assuming you're correct about like everything?
Because that's the thing. I'm not in the phase where I try to validate my thoughts or ideas, because I've actually grown out of it. I'm focused on reality and having an impact in the world, because that is way more important than some tra-la-la in a room. It's like that's what like really defines, our ability to even have this conversation. The technology, the luxuries we have. Without hard work, without people, providing for these things, you wouldn't even be able to have this conversation. That's what I focus on. I'm just focusing on actual impact in the world, and I don't discuss or debate so much at all. Like, the only reason why I'm having this conversation is because I have a freaking journalist that is trying to cancel me, and I have an interview on Wednesday, and it would be good that people tune in. That's the reason why I even went on the Raw show, because nowadays people can tell you lies and get me banned. I got banned already last time for lies, truly lies. And you saying that two girls that escaped didn't help, by the way. And I don't even know why you said that. Like,
because because the two people I've talked to that have come out have like described it as being like a pretty weird, and you have to admit that your setup is like very exceptional, like not in necessarily a good way.
and they escape from this place.
Well, I clarified after. I don't think you hold people there like physically against their will. Like they have to literally like climb a fence to get out or whatever. I did clarify that afterwards. But the people that have come out of your place and talked to me afterwards said that there's like a lot of kind of strange stuff the way that you guys run things. But you have to admit that like the way that you have things set up is pretty fucking weird, right? Like the last time we talked, it like several years ago, even I don't know how long ago it was. You told me that like clicking would be like a worldwide phenomenon within 1 year, and this was like several years ago. I mean, obviously it hasn't happened. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell, like, what, like, you just came in here and you just said that, like, your goal is to just raise money for people. If that's your goal, that's great. Then just do that.
What?
Why do you have to have, like, the cult philosophy and everything behind it as well? Like, just raise money for people. Like,
No, but my goal is not to raise money for people.
what is your goal then?
My goal is to have the most effective impact in the world.
What
if
does
you
that
wanna
mean?
call it a goal. Well, like that's the
Wait,
thing. Like,
real quick. Okay, I want you to fully describe this. I have to do like another podcast in 4 minutes, so I don't want to sound like I'm like running away from you. But so fully describe what you mean. I'm giving you like the last word on this. When you say you want to have like the biggest impact on the world, what is like your dream in terms of like how you can
Like
have like the biggest
basically,
impact?
the way I go about things is based on the feedback of reality. So I cannot absolutely state this is what I want for sure. What I can just do is be flexible and at any given moment figure out what is the best thing I can do. Right now, I think one of the best things I can do is organize ourselves and grow as a group and figure out what projects we can do that has the biggest impact. And we try to have a blockchain project in Uganda. We try to also have a mobile game to raise funds. And what I would like to do is, basically even replicate the ability of having self-sufficient communities that in developing worlds that work on giving back to the world. And I don't want to define what that exactly is because it gets shaped based on the feedback loop of reality. I can't just say like, but in essence, we just keep moving and evolving as a species. Maybe in 100 years we won't even be humans anymore. It's very hard for me to say like my ultimate goal is this. Like I just try to be as flexible and as impactful at any given moment based on the knowledge I have, and I'm just very flexible in that.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, listen, I got a bunch of stuff I have to do today, and like TwitchCon is coming up, but we can talk more in the future if you want. If you want, just poke me on Discord or Skype, and we can.
I'll hold you to that, and we can talk another time. And maybe Marty can come there in the conversation well, and be a little bit more, open-minded to challenge his beliefs. But yeah, I'm glad that you had this call and that we had this call. And that's it. Well, I'm on your stream. I want to say I can give a shout out, but I'm on your stream, so. Either way, that's it. Like, I would say, hit me up, and if people they like this kind of conversations, we can talk about anything. Definitely with my mobile game coming out soon, clashofstreamers.com. I don't think I would say no to these kind of debates because it promotes the mobile game like crazy. So, but of course, you have to see if you're fine with that.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Okay. See you, man.
All right, I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Oh God, is this what it was like arguing with me, Rem, in the early days? Holy fuck.
They're